And after doing that for a couple of years, we had a new religious education program, and everything was restructured to emphasize art and free expression, and that wasn't Jay's thing, so he didn't do that anymore, but he did that. I was not active in the church until my kids were teenagers. I joined about the same time as Elaine Bronez, and I had kids about the same age, but either my kids were worse behaved or I didn't have as much energy, so all I was able to do is maybe make a couple of pots of meatballs for the... I really didn't do much at all until the kids got very interested in Unitarianism, partly because they attended a Unitarian camp, and partly because they were in Rusty Claus's loft players. And that was wonderful. It really was marvelous. I will say that although we weren't active in the church, we were active in the church as a community. I mean, the big event in my week is when we hired a babysitter on Saturday night and went out, and several times we went to see the Boxwood Players. I can remember Peer Gynt, A Midsummer's Night Dream, which I thought was better than any of the 7 Midsummer Night's Dreams I have ever seen, and Turandot. And I remember thinking that Alan Stevens was a great genius and would someday be another Max Reinhardt, and I'm disappointed that he hasn't quite done that. And the loft players. My kids were in the loft players, and Rusty was very liberal. She allowed kids to direct plays and cast them. And she allowed my daughter Dolly, who was then, 15, to direct Sunday cost 5 pesos. And this was a very big event in our life because the Burt Holmeses, my brother-in-law and his wife, and 3 boys had come to visit us. And we took them to the church to see a play directed by my daughter. Okay, the best thing she had done was casting it. Sunday cost 5 pesos was a play about a girl whose boyfriend is seeing another girl. And fights have been so usual in this Mexican town that anyone caught fighting on a Sunday is fined 5 pesos. Well, the main characters were Dana Lara and Dickie McClellan. And when Dana discovered that her boyfriend was seeing another girl, namely Jocelyn Barrett, she got so angry, she slapped him on the face so hard that the print of the fingers was visible for the rest of the day. So that was a beautiful piece of casting. It was also great to have Jocelyn Barrett as her rival because they fought and had to be separated. And the peacemaker was Carol Bly, who was really a very shy, timid little girl. So it was a brilliant performance. And the Holmes boys, all of whom were jocks who didn't care for culture, were really impressed with all the physicality of it and the fighting. And that's about all I have to say.
I'd just like to thank Ken Crow for his filming this evening. And thank all of you for coming and sharing. And we have apple cider and donut holes outside. And don't forget to look at the large book of pictures that was created at the 40-year anniversary, and the other pictures up on the screen in the back.
One last story, folks. I want to tell you about Pat and I became a couple of distinctions here in this church. We came here in '57, and we were quite entranced with the whole community, of church community, of course. We attended our first annual meeting in the Holland Hills School, and they had an election for the Board of Trustees. And they were one person short, and somebody came up with the idea that since Pat and I were the first couple to join the church who didn't live in Holland Hills or Toxamont, that I should be on the board of trustees to represent the outsiders. So barely a year into our church experience, I was on the board, happened to be here when these fellows went through their adventures of buying the property, and I tagged along and enjoyed it all very immensely. Thank you, Ann.
I hadn't planned to speak. I'm Pat Jackson. But when Al was talking about the grave sites, I need to let you know that this is an ongoing thing. Pat Maddox has been discovering more information about the family that was buried on our meadow. It's Butner Stith, S-T-I-T-H. I think it's pronounced Smith in the old days, but it's spelled like a T, S-T-I-T-H, his wife Ann, and their child. And these gravestones were discovered by the kids on RE. I guess they surfaced, and they were rescued and put in the RE director's office. Eventually, with all the transitions going on here, I've kind of made room 4 in the basement kind of our safe haven place for good things, and the records, all of the good archives are down there too. And these stones exist in the basement, and they have part of the engravings on them. I think a committee was formed. Al, you were on that committee, and Jane Page of Sainted Memory was on that committee, and some others did research in the Stith family. Well, Pat Maddox is a genealogist of some renown at this point, and she's been researching this, and she's in contact with a lady in Texas who was part of that family and who has volumes on the Stith family, so that portfolio grows. During the time of getting ready for the show house, I think that's about the time that Ken was able to get us on the registry of historic buildings in Fairfax County. I don't know how you found this person, Ken, that was interested in the grave sites, but you had this gentleman come out, and you and he and I went out on the meadow, located the place where these gravestones had been found, and he said that he was researching this. He was part of the Fairfax County Historical Commission that was placing all the grave sites in the county. So that's on there, and he said he was going to come out eventually, and with a gentleman, someone who knows how to research this space with a long prod, and he would be able to go in the ground and find where those graves might have been. There may be other things down there because the gravestones are incomplete. We set the stones up in the basement for him to photograph, and we showed them at the 40th anniversary, as you may all know, and we had copies of the information we have about the Stith family at the 40th anniversary celebration. But that portfolio now is about this thick of Stith family memories. I just wanted to, since this is a historical document, I wanted to get it on the tape.
I'm sure you share with me the great impression of Anne, who has been here only a year, and as a newcomer, with newcomers like that, this church will have as bright a future as it's had a past. Let's go.
There was one thing I wanted to say, and that is in '72 when I had to give up the loft and get a full-time job and all that sort of thing, raise kids, etc. Coming up for a while was extremely painful. And then I got so busy, as only a teacher can know, And so many years lapsed from 72 to now. And about, well, several months ago, I started coming back. And I started coming back on a very regular basis. But the first time I came back, after all these years, I walked over to the name tag board. And my name tag was still there. Thank you.
My name is Larry Austin, and my purpose is to tell you this has been a production of Friday Night Live, which is a compilation of the ideas that you've heard here for the last 40 years. 2 weeks ago, we had our first revived coffee house. Last week, we had our first revived games night, and tonight we're having what is a religious education class. We intend to have 4 nights out of each month on Fridays dedicated to music, games, and hearing what we've done that inspired us to greatness. We invite you all to come back to this continuing series of classes. Ann has this schedule, and I'd like to extend to Ann indeed my personal thanks. This has been one of the most successful evenings we've had in the Friday Night Live series. I'd like to thank Ed for running sound for us, Ed Talkin, and Ken Crow for running the video for us. You may all join us for refreshments in the hall and come back again to our next class. Thank you very much.